Welcome to We the People, where we discuss the good, the bad, and the within community, culture, and politics. I'm your host, Fallon McClure, aka the Policy Princess, giving you all the details on all the latest topics. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
We the people with Fallon McClure, the Princess of Powder Springs in the building. How you doing, lady in pink? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. You know, I'm a little tired, but we here. But I'm tired, but so thankful. I was able to do some amazing things this week.
All right, what have you done that's so amazing this week? Your income tax came with an extra $1,000 on it or something?
Man, I don't be getting
Trump
money
gave you
back.
$1,000.
I don't get money back. Anyway, but I know at Clark Atlanta University at the W. Du Bois Policy Center, they had the Black Women in the South Policy Symposium.
Okay.
And I was able to be on one panel, Poverty to Power, on Monday, and then on Tuesday.
Poverty to Power.
Yeah, Poverty to Power.
Okay, what's that about? Talk to us.
It's about like how we are all actually connected, and folks feel like poverty is a them problem. It's the people that are poor problem.
Right.
But it's an everybody problem, especially when it's systemic, right? And the conditions that are made to force people to live in such a way. Right.
But a lady said this online, and she got it because of something that a Tennessee legislator spoke up in the House, in the legislative house. Tennessee said, he asked the question, if these people are so impoverished, then why do they have more designer stuff than anybody? So then the lady said on social media in response to that, we try to make poverty look cool, where people feel like we happy to be broke. Yeah. So how do we, when you go to other countries, their poverty don't look, laid back and chilling, and they don't try to glamorize poverty. They look poor, right? In America, we don't look poor. We can still get our nails done every week. We prioritize everything above getting out of poverty. We make poverty look so comfortable that people say they good. We don't need to do anything for them. What do we do to address that, though?
Ooh, you coming at me hot.
No, I didn't know you were going to talk about it.
Well, I was just trying to say I was on the panel. I was just on that panel. I was trying to get to the one that I actually moderated and put it together, which was the State of the Black South with some powerful black women and organizing and how we move forward. That's the one I thought we was going to go into detail.
All right, let's go into detail.
No, it's okay. I'm going to answer the question.
Now that we're here.
But now that we are here.
Go ahead, Fallon. Go ahead.
I mean, you can't be mad at black folks for knowing how to be clean.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. So
okay.
Other people who are of the alabaster preference,
the clear people.
The clear people.
Wow, clear people.
In their state of impoverished systemic ways that exist, there's just a culture that whether we grew up in the projects, we still had to go out. I remember cleaning washing the curb because there was this pride that it was still our space, right? So you can't be mad at us, not you, but culturally wise, we just have a different way of existence. And I'm pretty sure that our enslaved ancestors in the very small quarters and conditions that they had, I'm pretty sure there was still some cleaning going on. I'm pretty sure there was still some, on that Sunday, how black folks got to that Sunday's best because we know how to make something out of nothing. And you can't be mad at us, right?
And you can't be like, because someone is poor, they are undeserving of joy. There's this idea that if you're poor or in poverty, you should always be miserable, right? Yeah. Like you should just be always looking down and out. Like you can't ever have fun. You can't ever splurge a little bit. Yeah. That designer might have been, number one, might not be real. But then number two, it's unlikely that it's real, and then that might be you wearing that one designer sweatshirt or whatever
for years,
4 times a week. You know what I'm saying? That is the one thing that
And when Easter come, you couldn't have told my granny that we was going to show up at church without the nice gloves, white cotton leather shoes, a hat, right? There's a process. So I think even in whatever state that we are, Black folks, we love this joy. And other cultures, don't be mad because we have the joy. And I think other cultures can make some decisions. Yeah, I'm not going to be mad at somebody making a decision on how they're going to spend their money and live their life.
Right, so
because in the other part of that, we can talk about wealthy people, right? And we can talk about how wealthy people, right? And then we can talk about how there's probably some other preferred ways instead of billionaires amassing all of this wealth, right? Like, let's have more energy on that because that's something that I think we could probably have more, it has more implications on us. A sister who might be struggling wearing a faux designer bag is not really impacting my life versus some billionaires or the billionaires that have amassed all of this wealth and have some direct implications on policy and how I live. Right. That sister with that fake Birkin ain't really impacted my household versus that billionaire who is influencing policy and things that directly impact my life. So,
all right, so let's jump into that. Let's jump into that.
We skipped some segments today. We didn't even get to introduce Kiyomi. We skipped the link to at least the introduction.
And that's what got you hyped. My bad.
So let's talk about the symposium though.
Yes.
Policy symposium.
Yes.
And talking about, tell us what the symposium was about.
No, it was about, what it's in its title, like Black women policy across the South coming together and talking about the similarities, the differences, the work, and like what it means to be pushing policy in the South, especially in a time when it's anti, healthcare, reproductive rights, you even having qualifications, because with this like DEI stuff that it's just mind-boggling to me. Because any Black person in any position is well qualified, overqualified. So just like what that means and how do we collaborate and what do we do to like move forward? Because a lot of the fights, we feel like that we're in them by ourselves because it seems like in that moment, this is just happening here. But for instance, like they were talking about stuff that's going on here, with the vouchers for the $6,500 and take over the school in Muskogee and Columbus. They're taking over the schools in very similar ways. They're trying to, just in Memphis. Memphis, the blackest city in Tennessee, the blue, they're not going to impact any of the other schools, but they want to take over Memphis. And so it's like a way to like be like, oh, okay, we're seeing in real time, okay, they're implementing this playbook multiple places. So like, let's get together, let's figure this out, and let's be more strategic.
I think we're not listening to the counterparts and what they are actually doing and what they're actually their intent. I was watching a interview on Fox the other day, right? And they were talking to some policy hawks and then to some senators. And one of the things that Senator Kennedy from Texas said was that people must realize that once we get through this to the other side and it becomes the new norm, that we're never going back. And so what people got to realize on our side is all of this stuff that we're seeing unravel and happen in real time, there's no stopping this train. They're saying that white supremacy and this new culture, well, not a new culture, it's a rehashed idea that is coming to the forefront, and we're not going to pretend like, we're not going to even go through the necessary rigmarole to make it seem like we're being fair and equitable to anybody, right? So that's why they said no DI, no diversity, no equity, and no inclusion, right? This is going to be the new norm that everybody must understand. That's our persona non grata. And so So what do you do to make a policy that says that white supremacy is the rule of law, it's the rule of thought, and it's the rule and the norm in culture? They're trying to normalize that in culture today. How do you make a policy to interact with that?
Well, so there's a couple things. You can make policies all day, right? And we have all kind of think tanks and all kind of things about policy. You have to have governing power.
Right.
So, like, we have to build power. And, so, like, for us in my day job, we're looking at, like, public service commission races. Because, like, utilities are an easy entry point for people, right? Your bill high. You want to know who can do something about it.
Right.
You know who is giving Georgia Power the rubber stamp multiple times a year to raise your bill? The Public Service Commission,
and it's the only elected body, right, where the people that you govern can put unfettered money into your campaign.
Absolutely. So it's like, sometimes, when you're trying to live your everyday life, some of this other stuff, like voting for president, it doesn't, like, you're like, why, right? But like, when we can bring people in on like that low barrier of entry, like, because you can easily understand when it comes to that, then we bring them in, and then next year, well, we have municipals as well this year, but then next year, we have everything: gubernatorial, the constitutional offices, secretary of state, all of those, labor commission, insurance commissioner. Our insurance rates are going wild, right? So now we're continuing to connect those dots and move along. And then, but we're looking all the way ahead to 2030, right? Because we know in the House, like, I think it's 10 to tie, 11 to flip the House to break the Republican trifecta, right? And so we also know that redistricting is coming again in 2030, right? So we are like building this power. Like, it might seem incremental, but we are looking ahead, and if it might not happen in 2025 or 2026. But, we can make it happen by 2030.
How do we do that? I got to ask this. How do we do that when you don't have a cohesive group that is willing to work together no matter what? Because they're divided on policy. The thing that divides the Democratic House is one side wants to focus solely on the economy, the economics of this society. Say, hey man, we need to get on top of this, and this. Then the black group wants to work on equity. Let's be equal and let's cut this pie right. And then you got another sector, which they call the right, wants to work on the social constructs of policy, right? Which, they want gender, they want, gender equality, they want transgender inclusion and all of this. And there's a fraction because everybody ain't agreeing on all the different things. And so how do you ever get back when the other group, which you got the Republican House, they're on one thing. Our focus is on white supremacy. Everything else will work out. We want white supremacy policies. We want white supremacy laws. That's their only sole focus, and everything else falls under that. How do you come and put together a coalition to win?
I mean, for the record, though, they are starting to fracture. But I think we have to go back to and remember, one of my sheroes, like, nobody is free until we're all free, right? And so this idea, we can have, I think in this space, we all, even right now, if you ask the three of us, right, we all have like that issue that brought us in to this work, right? That's most, like, that we feel most passionate about. But that doesn't mean that I'm dismissive of the other policies, right? And together, I know that, like, maybe I am not personally impacted because I am not a trans woman, right? But I also know that trans women have been on the front lines and pushed policy in a way that I have benefited from. So why would I leave them behind?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But here's the thing, though. And I'm just a numbers guy. I look at the numbers of how you're going to get to where you want to be based on what this information is telling us, right? The information is telling us that I don't care who you are, that 88% of voting people in the Democratic bloc is not going to be on board with any of the policies that they were trying to implement with that community. They on board with them being part of the block, but all of these special boxes they want to check, 88% of the voters are saying, we're not with checking all them boxes because we don't think it's necessary. So how do you come together and say, look, we got to still work together. We got to focus on winning. Maybe you can't get all of this stuff that you want in this box checked. How do you get them to understand we still need you to be a part of this coalition, but you're going to have to realize that 88% of everybody in our whole group is not going to be with all this.
Well, then they can get left too, because at the end of the day, it impacts me no type of way if you want to check extra boxes. Right. It has no impact on my life.
Right.
At all. And this idea that we have to try to be more conservative to bring people along is a failing strategy. It has failed multiple cycles, and that is how we are here. So what we do is we bring folks in and we expand the electorate, right? So that's fine. It might be 88% right now, but we're going to get in community. And we're going to expand the electorate. That's why I was talking about utilities, right? And we're going to bring people together on the issues that make sense. And that's fine, right? They can feel that way, but that doesn't mean that we're going to leave them behind for their comfort.
But here's the thing. You can go your percentage with that 12% of people that's like you. But how do you win, though? We're talking about winning. If the majority of the people saying we got to change this direction, you don't agree with them, how do you win when the majority is saying we got to change direction?
I feel like I just answered this question.
I know, but you don't win, though. You saying...
Yes, I just told you how we win.
You say, well, we got to agree. They're not going...
No. I said we're expanding the electorate, right? And that there is strategy. And also there's education to get... A lot of times people fear what they don't know.
I know. You would have to totally just say, we're going to lose this group and bring in a whole new group. And the likelihood of that...
but isn't that what you're saying they're doing?
I'm just saying...
We're going to lose the
You can win an election with 12% not with you. Right. You're not going to win an election with 88%
But no, that 88% though, that might be 88% of the general public. That 88% ain't voting. Let's be real.
That's 88% of the voters.
There's that. Right. I think now there's a time where how we talked about all these systems are breaking down. This is probably the first time that a lot of folks who probably had some conservative views are being impacted by decisions, right? In terms of how they voted. Right. A lot of white people, a lot of conservative people are saying, oh, I didn't know this included me, right? So sometimes shit has to...
Go ahead. You can do
that. Has to...
you fine.
Sometimes people have to... stuff has to really get real for folks, right? Like black folks, we've been on the receiving end of systemic issues, so we know how to respond and react. This is the first time a lot of folks in the 88% are experiencing showing up at their good federal job that was supposed to be the thing that you had it was a guaranteed thing, and now you no longer work there, right? So there's some critical things that are happening to that 88% that is forcing folks to say, hey, as crazy as they are to the right, and your point, they are aligned. Like they are for whatever this train is. We ride this train to the bus down, right? I think now people are experiencing things at such a critical level. So to have the first time in your life that you're not thinking about, or you don't have health insurance, or that pension that you thought was going to be there, right? I think there is a time, or we're in a space now where some of this additional coalition building is going to be prevalent amongst that 88% core, because what we do know, the current state of all of us having these different factions, you're not agreeing over here, you're not agreeing over here, it has impacted us.
Right, but the thing I think we're misguided on is this. When it comes to the whole pie, I watched and read Project 2025 every page. I listened to the people, that's a part of that coalition and that part of that think group. They thought this thing out like really good. They really did. We think, well, everybody's going to be in an uproar because everybody got fired from this agency. It looks that way, right? Because the courts are saying you can't fire everybody. You can't do this. So what they do, if I fire everybody and I cherry pick the ones that I bring back, right? I still get my goal because I'm not discriminating if I don't bring you back. You get to sue me, but it's big bank take little bank. By the time you get me to a courthouse and get your day in court, we done turned over 2 presidents, right? And the government got way more money to fight you than you got to fight the government. That's the strategy. Do you understand what I'm saying? We fire everybody, so you can't say we discriminated. Then we cherry pick who we bring back. We bring back all the people that fits our demographic, right? We don't have to worry about them with the alphabets behind their name and the pronouns and all of that. They in the group with them other people, right? Them chocolate people. We don't have to worry about people that got visa problems because we're going to put them out of here. The chocolate, the alphabet people, and we cherry pick who we want, and everybody else will fight them in court. And that's how the Project 2025 ideology is going to work. Then the other part that we don't look at. Since 1968, white supremacy put a safety net into the system for them. And that safety net, they put about $70 billion aside every year for Caucasian safety net. And it's called the United Way. It's the United Way. They get $70 billion. Most of them are in alignment with the Lutheran, the Presbyterian, and the Catholic Church, right? All across where is there a United Way headquarters in the black community?
But for the record, most of the evangelicals are not Catholic.
They don't care about religion. The United Way was put in place that if we got to do a policy because of the civil rights movement that affects everybody, it's not going to affect you. Because we're going to get you a job, and we're going to pay your rent, and we're going to get your light bill paid, and we're going to find you a job and have job training funds put aside at this United Way. Where is there one in the black community? There is not one. Nowhere in the United States. Why? Because it was a safety net for white people. So what are they going to do? This is going to cause a panic, right? But what they'll do is they'll double down and put more money in the United Way. They did it during this last pandemic. They did it when Obama was the president. Their budget went from 35 billion to 70 billion during Obama. Why? Because it's a safety net that was put in place in 1968 for them. We're not thinking about that. They thought about everything that to keep their society strong. And so we're thinking about, well, maybe this will work or maybe that'll work. They playing chess and we playing checkers. Go ahead. You want to say something?
I'm done right now.
Right, we playing chess.
I'm done.
I'm just going to say.
Right.
When I think about, there's no easy answer. There's no, this is the way, this is the one thing, you know, that is going to work. I think I always share with people that are on the extreme conservative side that I didn't see any trans people running up on January 6th, right? Mm-hmm. So if we just want to, let's just start there, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody checking off an extra box, and I'm going to tell you, I am a person that's from a different generation that I'm open to learn. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, when I look at, are we playing chess? Are we playing checkers? I think there are some organizations that are in this for the long haul, right? Mm-hmm. Those organizations, you may not see us out in the open, but we definitely know how to send a group text that won't be including a reporter or a media, right? So I think there are things that are being done, and I think also that the long game is we go back to Public Service Commission. And this strategy of let's get into an entry level that everybody can agree on. Everybody can agree on utilities, right? Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen overnight, right? There's a new demographic of folks that are now, they want to be civically engaged, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to try and figure out where they fit in. But then also, everybody's not going to be a part of the journey. Mm-hmm. It doesn't shortchange the work or the effort. But I do feel like there are some powerful coalitions that are happening. I think that the country as a whole, when I'm seeing people who are participating in protests and movement building that I never thought I would see, right? Mm-hmm. So that chess part or the checkers part, in any war or battle, there are several strategies that have to exist. And I do feel like some of the things that we're seeing crumbling and the way that people are responding, or the way that people even know how to respond. So the amount of white people that I'm seeing in town halls, like literally cussing out whoever the Republican is because they're now thinking about whatever that policy is, I haven't seen that. It's mostly black folks standing up, right? Or people that you feel like in this movement work, they're standing up and using their voice. So we do see a different demographic of folks that are getting involved. And we do see a different demographic of folks that they're now the angry or the mad ones that are reacting versus always just black folks.
Right, but their issue is economics. Our issue is inequality, right? When the issue is inequality, like this segregation thing that came up, you don't see them roaring and fighting, and when it comes to deportation,
also, we don't care about the segregation.
Here's the thing that we should be talking about. That's the shocker to them, is that it didn't get the effect on us that they thought it would. When social media and a poll came out that over 80% of black people on social media said, I'm good with segregation, that was alarm bells that was sent all over the country. Why? Because it's a new mindset. We see the benefits of, if y'all got to put a sign in your window, or y'all started to put a sign in your window, it's not going to affect me. It's going to affect you. And so that was the thing. Here's the thing that we got to realize is this. And I learned this. I was preaching this when the election was going on for president, and nobody was listening. Because I had been around on the other side and I listened to all sides. Our issue is inequality. Their issue is strictly money. It's strictly how is what's happening going to affect my income and my ecosystem in my household. I don't care about, in their mind, if they deport 99% of all Latinos and non-whites out of this country, good. That's how most of them think. If they segregate all of y'all, good. I'm going to be all right as long as they don't affect the ecosystem of our household. We think, well, it's enough of them out here with a couple of signs that they with us. It was a whole bunch of them at them rallies for Kamala. But when it came to voting, they didn't go vote for Kamala. Why? Because that ain't what they're about. They'll come and do that because they're part of an organization that they work for and making some money with. But that ain't their politics. And we got to understand, and I'm talking to black people, that if we don't narrow down and look at what's in the best interest for a specific community that we live in, we'll always be played. We'll always be disillusioned. We'll all be always
push back.
Okay.
We also aren't waiting for or expecting them to save us either.
Right.
That mindset of like, so fine, I know your politics ain't my politics.
Right.
I know you're gonna show up when it's convenient and easy, and you're gonna show up for the rally and the photo op, but then when it get hard, you're not gonna be there.
Right.
But that's also why I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be pushing and supporting policies that support black folks, black women, because at the end of the day, that's gonna save everyone. Literally. So I literally I don't care. I don't have the time or energy to worry or care about whether or not they are showing up the way that I think that they should.
Right.
That's the last thing on my mind. Like because of course we've seen this with like the Women's March and all the there's been so many examples, and what is that fool me once, shame them later. We know who they are.
Right.
We saw that with the not even just the voting for Kamala. We saw where the other breakdowns were. Even here in Georgia when it came to voting for Stacey. So it's
here's the
what
thing.
it is.
We're gonna talk about this on the other side. We gotta talk about the obvious, the big elephant in the room.
But can we actually introduce Kiyomi?
Yeah, we did. We just jumped into the conversation. But I gotta take a break. But you go ahead and introduce her.
Thank you.
Yeah, but go ahead.
But I love black folks though.
Yeah, I just wanted to leave before we take this break.
Right.
We have Kiyomi Rollins in here, founder of the Connect. Social entrepreneurship.
Yeah. I apologize. Yeah, we just jumped into a real conversation.
Community was my fault. We started with Annie Up, and we just know smooth jazz from following from this point on.
No, it ain't gonna be no smooth jazz. It's all New York. All New York. She got me on New York right now. I I need y'all to do me a huge favor, man. I need y'all to have it locked and listening to We the People right here on the MI. Fallon.
Yes.
All feelings are valid. And so, all feelings are valid.
Yes.
Before we went to break, I was talking about a panel I was listening to a show. And they had these conservatives on Joe Rogan. And I hate to shout them out. But they had them on the show. And the thing that I don't think that my community fully understands yet, that the Caucasian community gets, they feel, and they vote accordingly. Consistently they have. That community don't see black women as an ally. They don't. They see black women as the biggest threat to democracy. And the reason being is they've learned to neutralize the strength of black men by using a division, the divide and conquer mechanism with us and the woman. They've used the prison system as a mechanism to neutralize black men. They've used the court system as a instrument.
I do want to point out, though, there are a significant number of black women that are incarcerated and impacted by that as well.
Right, but we're talking about.
Understood.
Right, and so, but the thing that they have not been able to completely do, and that is to neutralize this ambition and this drive and this camaraderie of black women.
And they never will.
Right, and so when black women had this black girl power movement where more black women became elected officials than ever before in the history of this nation, that was a wake-up call for them. And that happened at the same time that they said, okay, we can deal with Obama because we can neutralize him, right? And it never slowed down. And then you saw all these black women want to run for Senate and Congress and governor, right? So the pushback was from their group is cuddle them, pacify them, but do not support them. Do you follow what I'm saying? And one of the biggest was when black women got on the phone and said, soon as Kamala was announced, we've been to raise all this money. Yeah. It was like, we got to do something. And so the thing is to play you. That is, hey girl, let's make this about our issues and girl power and our bodies and bring you into that headspace to keep you from thinking about the bigger picture, right? How do black women, how do you wake up and realize that you're a public enemy, number one, in the eyes of people outside of your community?
So, number one, I was never asleep. And I never had any...
Well, a lot of them are. Let's just be real.
But, let's back up, though, right?
Because that was a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah. That's a lot. So, a lot to unpack. But also, I always go back to history. Because that's my thing. Right. When we look at the suffrage movement, right? Okay. And you had Sojourner Truth and other black women a part of the sort of coalition with the white women in order to gain the right to vote, right? Right.
For them.
Right. Well, okay. So and literally Susan B. Anthony and them was like, well, hold on. We're gonna come back for you.
Yeah. Right.
And they never did, right? So my point is, that's always how it's going to be. They will use black women's labor and voices and work in order creativity to achieve their goals. I mean, that's why they get cosmetic surgery to look like us.
Hello.
Now they gonna come out.
They mimic us.
Yeah.
Because they are not creative and lack culture and lack, to be honest, integrity. But I say all that to say, like,
okay, go ahead.
I am not anti-white, right? Mm-hmm. I am just pro-black woman, right? And I think there's a big difference there. And I do think, back to, we were talking before the break about, I talked a little bit about how we have to get to governing power. So sometimes where we align. But I also don't have illusions of like, who gonna have my back at the end of the day, right? And I think when you go into that with clear minds, then we can work, right? So for instance, when Georgia passed 481, the 6-week abortion ban, they showed up. But we know that, like, black women have the highest rates of maternal mortality in Georgia. And we know that we are most impacted, and that further criminalizing access to care is going to hurt us even more, right? Mm-hmm. But, they showed up for that to help, fight back about it a little bit and, create the stuff for the lawsuits. And then ultimately, but, they are back this year criminalizing, trying to say that life begins at fertilization.
Right.
And so we'll be criminalizing IVF and doulas, midwives, even healthcare professionals, and just even women and pregnant people when they, have miscarriages. And so, so now they're showing up again. Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't appreciate when they were showing up with the abortion ban stuff using Keep Your Head Up by Tupac on their videos on TikTok. Like trying to use that as the theme song and the rallying cry. That was a little problematic. But my point is, sometimes, they bring some media and some emphasis to the cause, and I'm like, we're just supposed to be strategic, use it how we can, but I don't expect anything, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think we know as black women, this is not nothing new to us. I mean, we are fully aware of our power and our existence from the time that we're little girls in school, right? I think also the threat is, at the end of the day, that ambition, that black girl magic, all of that, we do have that power of connection. We do have that power of recognizing just what needs to be done. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of movements or things or policies happen in places because black women have been behind certain policies, movement building. I don't think about a white person's disdain for my existence impacts my day. Black women, we know that. We know how white folks feel. We know how white folks feel. We know how black men feel. We know how the world feels, right? Mm-hmm. I just always love to remind people that, first off, black women, we created this, right? Mm-hmm. Like, what was that? That very first femur bone, Lucy, was, the bones that was, that said that, science started humanity. Mm-hmm. Is from a black woman, right? Mm-hmm. And so we created this. There would be none of this here without us, right?
I gotta ask this though, and this is from the mindset of, the counterpart, right? The question is, after the Civil Rights Movement, 70s, black girl.
The Civil Rights Movement isn't over though.
Right. Well, I'm saying that era, that 60s,
yes.
70s.
Yes.
Black women started to matriculate into this corporate thing, right? Mm-hmm. And then what happened was the 80s came, right? And you got them in colleges everywhere, and they started to get...
We was just running amok.
Right, getting good government jobs, and there was a new standard. And so that standard held true from the 80s to the 2000s, right? And then in the 2000s, this new sister, this refined sister, become to emerge. And she started to look like Fallon with the twist in her hair, and like you with the twist in your hair. That became offensive because they said, how dare you? We know that you have degrees. We know that you're educated. How dare you come into our corporate structure with all your ethnicity? And so that the Crown Act had to be, now we got to fire you and do this and that because of your hair. We want you to go back to that late 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s Negro that was trying to get yours and get you a house and be this and be that without all of this, this Afrocentric, this and that. How do you navigate in society when they think that you offend them by being your natural self?
I don't center somebody's whiteness in my presence, right?
Right.
I don't center that, right?
She do that to piss people off. She do it now. I'm saying right now. I don't care what nobody say. Fallon do it to piss these people off. You do.
I think one of the however you choose to go out into the world is how you go out into the world. Right. So this is who we are. Even if Fallon and I were both sitting here with the middle part 20-inch bust down to our waist, somebody would have a problem. Right? Somebody would have a problem with it, right? So either it's our hair, it's our bodies, it's how we talk. At my big old age, I don't even code switch anymore. So if I want to use all the slang, AAVE, that's how I want to express myself.
AAVE is a true language.
Right. What is AAVE?
African American vernacular. So
right. Yeah.
So my tongue is decolonized, right? So at the end of the day, Black women, or I'm going to say for me and how I raise my children and anyone around our circle, however we show up, somebody's going to have a problem. If we come into a space and if Fallon and I decide that we come into a meeting and maybe we want to be quiet in a meeting, the immediate thing is, what's wrong with y'all? Because you're expecting Black women to exist a certain way.
You must be mad.
Yeah, you must be mad, right? Yeah. So it's like, that's not for me to figure out. That's y'all stuff, right? So I could firmly say when someone asks, what's wrong with you? Nothing.
I'm good.
Nothing.
I'm all the way good.
Why do you ask? I don't have to share that with you. Right? It's none of your business, right? I'm not responsible for how you're reacting to my presence.
Right.
That's a you thing. Remember, all feelings are valid.
See.
Right?
She did that. That's the nice nasty.
You can feel
I saw that. That's the nice nasty right there.
You can feel
that's why they don't like y'all. That's why they don't like y'all right now. Y'all do that. No, you see how y'all just did. That's why them folk don't like y'all. Y'all making it hard for all us in here, man. Y'all need to calm down, man. These folks out here mad because y'all be doing
that. And
that.
they are entitled to their feelings.
All feelings are valid.
They are entitled to feelings.
Y'all making it hard for us.
So when we come into the spaces, that's a y'all problem, right? I love the way I walk in the space. I'm comfortable.
Right.
If I feel like wearing a suit, I'm gonna wear a suit. If I don't
you can't
feel like
permit
wearing
one time for them, please.
I don't even have a desire. No.
I don't even own a flat iron no more.
There's not even
And look for me though.
But also, Black women can show up. Listen, Black women can show up however they want to show up.
Right.
However they feel comfortable. Like I said, even with having
this has gone to the Supreme Court, y'all. Y'all know that, right?
I'm clear. I'm clear.
Okay.
I'm clear.
Right.
But also,
white folks are offended on how y'all coming up on these jobs.
Specifically white women.
Right.
Because we better than them. That's why they're offended.
We live.
Right? So the fact that we have a Crown Act, right? Well, let's get into it. That Crown Act has been a problem.
You gonna make it hard for us, though.
Listen, Black women, how we show up, our style, our culture, our voice, where our bodies move. What was it? Louisiana, they made that law of there was a law that Black women had to have their hair covered.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what did Black women do? Oh, it's a law now? Oh, this about to be the most beautiful turban, right? So at the end of the day, you can't be mad with excellence and perfection. That's a y'all thing. You can feel how you want to feel. You can feel how you want to feel.
Because even though, think about it, like they were in slavery, you couldn't cook. Couldn't clean.
Couldn't feed your children. Couldn't nurse your children. Right?
I see why you feel some type of way, you know?
And you're always gonna feel some type of way. Right?
And I can do all the things with my hair. I could go to a bust down. I can go
we are. Right? And I wouldn't ever want to tell my children and anyone to diminish who you are. You walk into a room. I love coming to a meeting where it's a whole bunch of white people and I'm late, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be late, right? But I'm going to walk all the way to the front of that building. You're going to make space for me.
Right.
Slide over.
How do you do this thing, Fallon, when you're in the corporate setting all the time? And you know, you're a lawyer, you know, you're a leader, and they try to cheapen who you are as a person. How do you come into the room and level set the room? How do you come in and level set the room other than pissing people off?
So like a long time ago, I don't intentionally piss people off.
You going in there doing your hair and all that? How you gonna do it?
I'm gonna do a hair flip now.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I'm always gonna do a hair flip. I can't help it. But no, I made a decision a long time ago to show up as my full self in every space. Right? Absolutely. Because
full self.
There was right after law school or somewhere in there, I remember it was like I was interviewing for a solicitor's office, and I remember my mom being like, "Hey, are you gonna straighten your hair?" My hair was like natural at that point, but and I was like, and you know, she meant it in the most love, because also like our parents also did everything they did to make sure to protect us, and blending in and outside out was a protection,
so that we could be free,
we could be free, right? And so I understood it, and I was like, okay, well, and I just remember doing it, and I just remember I felt uncomfortable, and I didn't get the job, and I mean, who knows the reasons, but I felt like I was uncomfortable, so I probably didn't show up as my best self in that interview, right? And at that moment, after that, like when I got that rejection letter, I was like, never again will I show up in a space and try to look a certain way to like appeal to other folks. Okay. Now I still remain within the bound. Like later on, years later, I went to work at a different solicitor's office, and I get it. There's a handbook. There's a dress code. I remained within dress code, but I was still my full self, right? And so, you know, in court, you have to. The things was, I think we had like some length requirements to dresses and stuff, or you know, obviously you could wear pants, but I don't really wear pants often. And you know, you have to have a blazer on or whatever, right? So it might be like, okay, I have on a yellow dress and a blue blazer and rainbow shoes, but I'm still me. But you know, also because I was the best at what I did. It became a point where like the ladies who work in the courtroom were like, oh, what shoes you got on today and stuff, right? Like they might have initially been like, I'm not sure, but my work ethic and my work, it spoke more than everything else, right? And so that, I've always continued since that day to show up, you know, so even, you know, when I've been at commission meetings and city council, like, you know, I remember when I was in front of Fulton Commission for those hours that day, I was in my Jordan 11s, right?
But here's the thing that I noticed on that day. People have a perception of she's young and she really not. And then when you open your mouth and then they realize she really is that one, right? They become offended, like, how dare she come in here, her little young ass, and try to show off. You know what I'm saying?
Number one, I'm older than they think.
Right. Because they think she's young and she shouldn't be in the room. And then when she show up as herself and realize, oh, this is what we got, that offends them even more, because how does this young lady, blah, 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 and they don't know that she's done the work, she's got the degree, she's all of that. And you have to respect her. Absolutely. And you can't take it for granted. I got to take this break, man. I'm in here with two dynamic sisters, man. Two dynamic sisters in the building talking real talk about, you know, real life being black and brilliant in America. I need y'all to do me a huge favor.
We're going to talk about the connect after this.
We're going to talk about the connect on the second half of this one. I need y'all to do me a huge favor. Let's talk about it. How did you hear about Connect?
Oh man, so the origin story is crazy.
But it's a good one.
It's a good one. So we were I was working for WFP during the Warnock Ossoff runoff.
Okay.
And your boy Clifton.
Okay, Clifton.
Was like, oh, I know the sister that owns. I was looking for like a space to do like a little something during COVID, but trying to find something outside but in the district. And so like Kiyomi was so gracious, but then she was like, oh, but wait, that's the one day we're closed right now because they have been in the community doing the work and they were closed. And there was a miscommunication with some of my canvassers because we changed it to a park. Okay. But they like showed up and they was trying to open the door and then her alarms went off. Wow. And so she was so mad at me.
Breaking my place was going on.
She was like, and she was like so mad at me because she was like, I just wanted this one day of rest and I gotta come up here and do it. I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I did not mean to. But after that, like, we still.
Let me tell you about Miss Fallon. I tell the story all the time.
Right.
So that did happen. In fact, did happen. And it was during, as she said, COVID. We were doing food drives. We were doing protests. It literally was just like one day, I think, out of, I don't know how long, we had just been going.
Right.
But what I do love about this amazing black woman.
Right.
I saw her later on, right?
Okay. I was going to get to that, yeah.
And first off, adorable.
Right.
Didn't have a context. But I forgot Clifton was a common thread, right?
Yes.
Right.
And I'm at an event, and when I see her, what I appreciated, and one was that she came up, introduced who she was, and she still was just like, hey, I'm sorry about that day. I just want to reiterate that. And I can't remember everything else that was said other than in that moment. I just appreciated just that conversation. I think sometimes when things happen, people forget we're more connected than we are disconnected.
Right.
So I would have known who she was, but in that moment for her to come up, and so I always talk about, you know who the baddest walking around here is Fallon, because at the end of the day, y'all other folks be letting stuff happen, and you don't want to say anything in that moment, and so I support anything that she does.
All right.
Love the work that she does for community, and just always know that whatever she's doing, we want to be behind and support it. So just how black women do. You talking about this black girl magic.
Right. Y'all lock in.
She called. She said, "Hey, pull up." So I'm here.
Right. So let's talk about Connect. You sitting at the house, cooking you a vegan sandwich, and
I'm a carnivore.
But we
down
healthy.
The street yes. But we extremely healthy though.
Right.
I'm doing a farm.
You doing the smoothies?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. Sitting there, you know. Yes. And where did this idea of Connect come? And what is Connect? Where did it come from? And what is it?
So I'll answer the first question. The Connect is actually a trauma response.
Okay.
Right?
Trauma
so
response.
I have always had a family business. I've been an entrepreneur for the past like 20-something plus years.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. And so,
doing what though? What field?
In hair.
Okay.
So I had a plant-based hair and skincare business called The Good Hair Shop. And we were an original third space, so meaning that we had this business, but it was also where after school kids would come. If you were there, our closing hours were just suggested because community was just always there. So if you and Fallon were there, it would probably be about 9 o'clock, and I would just give y'all the key, and I would just say, I'm going to go home. Y'all just drop off the key when you come back, like when you finish up. So it was just this beautiful safe space. So 2019, the first season of Weston Mall, the announcement that Weston Mall was going to be purchased, caused a tsunami effect of commercial purchasing buy-in in our community. There was lots of conversation around what was going to happen to the residents, and I also live in the Westview West End community. Okay. So there was conversation around what was going to happen for programming and outreach for the residents to kind of mitigate the impact of this development, which was needed. But also during those meetings, there was not any conversation around what was going to happen to those Black-owned legacy businesses. Okay. So if anyone is familiar with the West End community, we just have legacy mom-and-pop businesses.
All right, so when we say the Westview, Westview is the street that goes on the side of the Westview Cemetery.
Yes.
And it used to be a threat. When I was a kid, that whole thing was nothing but black businesses.
Absolutely.
And they had a black grocery store over there. We had a black theater over there.
Absolutely, yeah.
We had all of that brought you up to what they call not James B. Brawler, but what they call Ralph David Avenue. Used to be Gordon Street
yes.
when I was a kid.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right, because that's my neighborhood. Because on the right of us, if you came on Westview, to the right is Mosley Park off of Martin Luther King, right? So I grew up Mosley Park. So go ahead.
Okay. And so think about that community. So think about those businesses that are there. A lot of those businesses from that time that you're referring to are probably still in existence, or the second generation or third generation. So just mom and pop businesses.
Right, all my life.
And so during this time, hearing that there was no conversation or plans for the legacy businesses, what Fallon said earlier, we just know nobody's coming to save us. Because I'm a black woman. And I just know we just got to do the thing that we got to do, right? I decided to kind of mobilize some folks, have a meeting in our space to talk about the displacement of black-owned businesses and what could be done. So during a meeting about the displacement of black-owned businesses, I received an eviction letter for my family business. And so the reason I say that the Connect is a trauma response is because we kept on with the meeting, right? Because I knew it was super important. But as the conversations were going on, I think all of us black folks in the meeting, business owners, we were all kind of like, oh, there is no plan. Or the plan is for us not to be here, right? And so there was this other building on the same street that had been empty. So I called up the property owner, and just said, hey, what's happening with that building? And I said, I would like to come into this space, but under two conditions. One, I'm going to do some type of mixed-use common thing to bring in other black-owned businesses into the space. And then secondly, I want to be able to have one of the longest leases with the first option to be able to purchase or develop, right? And so he agreed. I think he agreed and then didn't think that I was who I said I was, right? And so this is August 2019, not knowing what was going to happen for COVID, right, in 2020. And so the Connect became just this, we call it a Black liberated third space, where the community gathers to exchange ideas. That is our premise. There's always going to be Wi-Fi. There's always going to be lights on. You're going to be warm. There's some good coffee that is in there, right? But it's a space where community connects. We have conversations. When Mayor Dickens and Felicia Moore had their runoff conversation candidate forum, that was held in the Connect. And so over these 5 years, as we're celebrating being half a decade old, it's an institution now. And so our focus is on black folks. Point blank period. Black folks, right? Because if we're okay, everybody else is going to be okay. So we've gotten into doing some funding. We've gotten into doing civic engagement. It is what the community wants to happen, and it's resident and business driven. And we're now also in a space of looking to expand. So we're trying to buy some land, right? Because we also understand that the Connect needs to be a campus where people could learn our theory of community. And so that's the Connect.
The Connect, man.
Yes.
The Connect is nothing but community.
Nothing but community.
Right. And so, how did y'all get into do y'all do micro lending?
Yeah, we do. So we started this program called the Microfinancing Cooperative. Okay. Right. Which
how do you do that though?
Because
your number fell, and you put a little coins inside. Come on, talk to me how to micro lend.
So,
what is micro lending, by the way?
So first, it's focused on. So I believe in anything in the cooperative energy or cooperative space. Right.
That's how you do it.
Right. And so that means that we truly believe at the Connect the power of the solidarity economy, meaning that our emphasis is on the wellness of people over profit. So during, I think, the second season of white people responding to the post George Floyd racial reckoning, so season 2 of that, right? It was
you did it like it's a series. What season was it?
This was season 2. So during season 2, is when white people, that's when they started, saying Black Lives Matter. They started putting their signs in the yard. Right. They started to the things that you have been talking about over years, all these systemic issues, it's a thing. And what can we do? And then remember, they had that strong response. Right. So season 2, because now we're in season 5 and they don't feel that way anymore, right? But we knew that. But anyway, I digress. So season 2, there was a space
I'm still in that. I don't give a damn what you say.
But for Caribbean people, there's this concept called a susu.
Okay, I know
where we collectively pull our money together.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. And then if it's the three of us, we collectively pull together $10. Each month, that's $30, and each one of us gets a payout, right?
Right.
So I knew that was a concept that people trusted in our community.
Right.
And so during that season, there was this open grant call for a new idea of development and things. And so we submitted an idea for, I knew I couldn't call it a susu, because I also knew that no matter how woke people feel that they are, right, sometimes words that sound different, they can't process it, right?
Cannot.
So we said, well, we know they like that word finance. Then I'm put micro, because micro means small. And then they won't see the other word cooperative.
Cooperative in there.
So it's microfinancing.
Cooperative.
Right? They won't even see cooperative.
That's to let me borrow $100 finance company.
Yeah, right.
Borrow $100.
So what happened that first, so what I did with that, I said, we're going to do this susu. But I'm going to take this money from this grant, and we're going to match the payout.
Okay.
Right? So meaning, I got to use a small number because art history major back in college, way back in the day. But we did 10 businesses first that pulled together $200. Okay. Meaning that each month a business would get $2,000, right?
Okay.
We took this pilot money and did a partial match so that each business could actually get additional $1,000.
So
right?
$3,000.
So $3,000
per
right?
business.
Per business, right?
And they pay back on a monthly basis.
So we're just a pool. We're collectively pooling the money and we are redistributing. Right? That was the first iteration of it. Right?
Right, but I gotta ask a question.
Absolutely.
All right.
Hold on, I say one more thing.
All right.
The other thing we did.
Right.
There was an app along that time called Isusu.
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 Yes.
Yes.
They had a trade line with all 3 credit bureaus.
Okay.
So we did those payments. They would report those monthly payments to the credit bureau.
Okay.
So we knew that at the end of this 10-month period, because it was 10 businesses, we could actually impact their credit score and
as
actually
a business.
have them as a business. Right. I'm sorry, it's a personal side.
On the personal side.
Yes, personal side.
Oh my God.
So we ended up with businesses getting that credit score up to that 620, to that 640, and then we're able to actually have some additional funding at the end.
Right.
So then the second iteration, we raised more money. And then because I'm a black woman and we just decided to do all the things, we added on more businesses. Right. So it was 20 businesses. Right. And then it was 4,000, I think 5,000 that we did. And so during those first 2 rounds, we ended up redistributing 140,000 amongst 30 black-owned businesses. But as Fallon said earlier, I am a person that when I understand I'm overworked and I got to rest, I looked at what our pilots were, took feedback from those assessments, and just realized our program was really long, and black businesses really needed more than that $4,000 to $5,000.
They do.
So we spent time really raising money for this third round.
You know what the experts have figured out?
What?
I learned this from CNBC.
Okay.
I learned this from Warren Buffett during the pandemic.
Okay.
Guess what Wall Street and all financial people understand about our community?
What?
The 99% of all black-owned businesses are one person. That means
solopreneurs.
Solopreneurs, right? But they are $200,000 away, right?
Absolutely.
Because most of the businesses, right? They said the majority of black-owned businesses, if they were injected $200,000 into that business, it would be a success.
Absolutely.
And it would eat at market share in their own economy.
Absolutely.
We're the only economy that we have so much room to grow in a $1.6 trillion economy, right? If we got 200,000 per business injected into our business, we would eat so much of the market share that we would become the majority of our own economy, right?
Absolutely.
Which would do irreparable harm to the greater economy of other people, meaning they got to find somewhere else to do business because we now dominate and control our economy. That's why one of the hardest things for us to do is get funding to that level, because they know if we get that person to that 200,000, the average person to that 200,000, it's over for us in whatever trade that they're in. So they know that.
Absolutely. I think, so I bring to this space that I've been an entrepreneur Negro for 20 years,
yes.
but I've shown my most authentic self,
yes.
right? So I've never tried to like dilute this blackness, right? Like I am who I am. My spaces are who they are.
Right.
But this third round, we understood there were a couple of things that were happening.
Okay.
We were now in the faux poly pandemic, right?
Right.
And there was this report that came out. I think the McKesson report said that it would take a business an average time of 3 to 5 years to recover from COVID. I knew in our community that wasn't accurate because we weren't a part of that poll. And so I felt like for our community, the recovery time would be anywhere from 8 to 10 years or never. There would be some businesses that would just not recover from COVID. I can only use the lens of Atlanta because that's where I live. I also knew that we saw this upspike in construction and development happening again. We saw the rise of commercial rental properties. And then I think one of the things I started to see first was a lot of white-owned businesses get evicted. And we ain't never seen white-owned businesses get evicted.
Right.
Like in mass. Like they were like closing down, shutting down.
And guess what? They get the 200,000.
They do.
SBA, they get money from everywhere.
That was also a key to, if they're feeling it, we're really feeling it. Right? And so this third round, I took time trying to hustle, trying to raise money. Fallon has been in the space. Sometimes that money does not come from Atlanta, right? Okay. So there was a partner from Dee Cee called Common Futures who just got it, right? They understood. There was not a long grant application. I hope people are hearing or listening to that. There was no like who is on your board. It was, we see this thing that is working.
Right.
How would you like it to work?
Right.
How I would like it to work is on this next round, I just want to put capital in the hands of businesses.
Right.
A preference on legacy businesses, legacy brick and mortar businesses, right? We're going to accept all applications. But I know there are some businesses, like I could think of Brave and Kind Bookstore, Indicator, Bunny Hillier, who's one of my favorite people, right? Who, although very successful, downtown Decatur, East College Avenue is a prime commercial real estate space, right? It doesn't matter how great her concept is. Her landlord still has a decision to be able to raise rent and to make this very vital bookstore that we need that serves us as community might not be there, right? And so this next iteration, so let me go back. So Common Futures partnered with us and we were able to, or they invested $250,000, $250,000 for us to be able to do restorative capital. These are going to be some very slow, patient loans where we're going to do these loans to up to about 35 businesses. Average loan size would be from $3,000 to $5,000, 10 or 15. And under some very special circumstances, if there was like a legacy business that's been around, there may be the option for a loan to be a little bit more, like we probably go to like 50,000, because we also know the World FIFA Cup is coming, right? And so we do know that there is a desperate need for capital right now for business owners.
Right, and for the amount, I think it's like less than 12 games that they're gonna play in Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's gonna bring $800 million.
The world is coming to Atlanta, and we're not
just for them 12 games. $800 million.
Yep.
That's some crazy money. Well, Fallon, we got down to another edition of Weird People.
We did. It was a good one.
You gonna be sleeping when you get on the plane, Fallon.
I am.
I can look in your eyes.
I'm tired.
You're gonna be falling out. Hey, we got Connect in the building. We need to know how to get in contact with Connect and how we can connect with Connect.
You can connect with us Wednesday through Saturdays over in Westview. Go to Instagram. Address 1492 Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard. Atlanta, GA 30310 in Zone 4. Instagram THEKENEKT. Click the link in the bio. There's a link for everything that we're doing right there on Instagram. Or our website, THEKENEKT.com. The connect.com. THEKENEKT.com. So if you look up the word connect, we spell it the way it's enunciated. Right? So you wanted that cultural clue. So like, is this black folks? It's the black folks.
It's the black folks. All right, and say connect, go connect. Fallon, how do they follow you?
Fallon McClure GA. All the things are in the link in the bio.
It's on the link in the bio.